So there's one time, somebody called me and they wanted a gram of heroin. This was in the beginning of when I was first starting to sell heroin. And I was living in motels at the time. This is way before I had my own places. Jenny and I were still living in motels. And I went to go meet this guy. I get there, and he doesn't have any cash. Instead, he has an 8-ball of crystal meth. Now, I'm a cold dope fiend, right? I'm the kind of guy, doesn't really matter what it is. I'll do any drug, especially if it's for free. I never go seeking crystal meth. And the reason being is it turns me into a fucking pervert. Straight up turns me into a weirdo. So, and my girlfriend, Jenny, by the way, she had been roofied at a party when she was in college. And somebody was giving her lines of crystal meth, and she had a stroke. And that's actually what gave her epilepsy. I said that she was epileptic. She got it from snorting meth. She just, I don't know why. I've never heard of that happening to anyone else, but she had a stroke. So she was vehemently against tweaking. I mean, even though she was also against me doing heroin at the time, she was even more so against crystal meth. So when I go to meet this guy, and he gives me an 8-ball of meth for a gram of heroin, it was like the kind of thing where it was already like midnight or something when I went to go meet him, and I'd driven, and, you know, he'd pulled some game on me, like not telling me he didn't have money. So when I'm there, I'm like forced to take the meth from him. So I take it, and I end up going back to our hotel, and I start doing it in secrecy. So I take the meth in the bathroom, and you don't have to cook it to inject it. You just put meth in a spoon and take the plunger off the syringe and crush up the shards, put water on it, and it's water soluble. It'll liquefy. You put a cotton in there, you draw it up, you shoot it, you get a cough, and go right when you shoot it, and like it's orgasmic. It like this weird static electricity goes from like your balls up to your fucking head, and then you just get really perverted. So I did this shot of meth, and I go and I try to fuck my girlfriend, and she can totally tell I'm tweaking because I'm just, hey, maybe we should fuck, you know, just like weirdo shit. And so we get in this big fight. She ends up taking his Xanax, passing out. So I'm just left in this mode. And this is before iPhones. Like, you can't just pop on fucking Pornhub, right? So I'm like, I have to jerk off. Like, I'm so twacked out. That's like, I have to jerk off. So I'm looking all through the motel, and the only thing I can find to jerk off to is a TV guide. It's the only thing in the whole motel room that has any pictures on it. And the only picture is this girl on the cover that's like in her 60s. But I'm just like so horny and so twacked out on speed. I'm just like, whatever. So I go into the bathroom and I start beating off to this fucking 60 or something year old on the cover of the TV guide. And eventually it's just not working for me. So I leave the motel and I go to a liquor store and I buy a bunch of porn magazines, and I come back to the motel. And I don't know other people, like, you know, meth is not my drug of choice. I've done my fair share of it, but when I get on it, I get in this like weird, I get like hypnotized almost in some weird perverted trance. So I'm looking through the porn magazines and I'm like, oh, okay, this pussy looks good. This butthole looks good. Oh, I like this one. And I just can't decide which image to beat off to. There's like so many images. Like, I'll start with one and then I'll get sick of it within like 10 seconds. Then I'll have to flip to a new one. And then I'm constantly searching for like the right shot. So eventually I start ripping pages out of the porn magazines and putting toothpaste on the back of them like you would do in jail. And I start plastering the walls with like buttholes and pussies. Like, the entire bathroom is the shrine of buttholes and vaginas. And, you know, I'm in some trance, just getting it, naked, jerking off on the fucking floor of this motel bathroom for hours. It's like 5 or 6 in the morning now. And I'm like, man, I should go to the porn shop and buy a pocket pussy. I've never had a pocket pussy. I know nothing about pocket pussies. But in that tweaked out moment, it definitely seemed like a very viable option. So I get in my car, And I end up going to this porn shop. And I'm like, it's the classic guy with like the fucking piercings that's working there at 5 in the morning. It's a 24-hour porn shop. Working there at like 5 or 6 in the morning, whatever time it is. And I'm like, hey man, I need a pocket pussy. So he like comes to the pocket pussy section and starts talking to me about different pocket pussies. Like things I didn't even know. Like he's like, well, this one you can control the tightness and it has like some like mechanism where you can make it tighter. This one lubes itself. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I buy one. I'm like, you know what? Throw in a pocket butthole too. So he does. He gives me a pocket butthole, which looks like a dog toy, like a dog turd toy, like that big. Looks nothing like a butthole, but I guess it's supposed to feel like one. And he gives me like all this complimentary lube. So I go back to my motel. I think I was beating off while I was driving because I was so excited. I think I was using the pocket pussy while I was driving. I don't remember. It was a long, long time ago. But I get back to the motel, and I'm back to my butthole and vagina shrine. And I sit there. I like literally start lubing myself up, and I'm jerking off, and I'm using the pocket butthole and the pocket pussy. And Jenny opens the door, and she's like, what the who knows how much time's lapsed? It's probably like 9 in the morning now. She's like, what the fuck? The entire room has like gaping fucking vaginas and buttholes. And I'm sitting there humping this like rubber turd, and I have like strawberry lube all over me. She freaks out, makes me tear everything down. I have to like load this shit in the trunk of my old Volvo. And I put it all in a box, and it just kind of stays in the back of the Volvo. Okay, well, like a few days after this, that kid from the first part of How I Made $500,000 in a Year, the high school kid that was selling the Molly for me, he hits me up, and he's like, hey, I want to pick my girlfriend up at LAX. Can I borrow your car? I was like, yeah. So I let him borrow the Volvo because she had a Jeep, and I think I had a Tahoe already at that point. We had 3 vehicles, I want to say. So the Volvo was just whatever, like an extra car. We had them all in this motel parking lot. So he came and got it, and I never heard from the guy again. Like, he fucking disappeared with my car. And I wasn't even really tripping about it, A month goes by, and I'm doing coke at this guy's house. I remember I was at it's like 4 in the afternoon. I'm doing coke with a bunch of people at some guy's house. My phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's the San Francisco police. And they're like, Mr. Leone, your car's been involved in a felony DUI accident, and it's being taken to the impound. It was driven by so-and-so. Did he have permission to drive your vehicle? I'm like, fuck, San Francisco. I didn't want to get him in trouble, though. So I said, yeah, he had permission. It's cool. I don't want to press charges. He didn't steal my car. Okay. So they brought that car that was totaled to an impound lot. And they ended up contacting me, and they told me that they had some of my property still if I wanted to go get it. But I was down in Santa Barbara. The car's up in San Francisco. It's like a 6-hour drive. So I wasn't going up there anytime soon. My grandparents live up there, and my mom was going to visit my grandparents. So she's like, hey, while I'm up in San Francisco, why don't I go pick up the property in your car? Like, I had like a laptop in it, some other stuff. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't remember that I had a box with a pocket butthole and like all this torn up porn magazines with like just select butthole shots and so she ended up going to this impound lot, and when they were giving her my property back, they literally had to itemize everything. So they had to go over it with her, and she said that it was like they brought this box of this perverted, greasy, like from like some tweaking night that I totally like regret in memory. I don't know if you've had nights like that where you're twacked out and do perverted shit, and you're just like, when you come to, you're like, oh my God, what the fuck did I do? And my mom had to like 1 pocket anus, 1 pocket vagina, 1 Buttman magazine, and my mom had to go through this inventory on this counter. And she said there were like a half dozen people at this impound place, like in the waiting room, like laughing at her. And my mom has a good sense of humor, but she's just like, Jesus Christ, like, what the fuck? I'm like, it's the kids who totaled my car. I have a girlfriend. Why would I have a fucking pocket butthole? Makes no sense. So, anyway, that's just a little, that's called the pocket butthole. I wrote that story in Wasting Talents, the first thing I ever wrote for it. And Will De Los Santos, the guy that wrote Spun, who optioned the rights to my book, he said that was his absolute favorite part of the book, the pocket butthole. It will go down as literary treasure for generations to come. So, quick little short story, pocket butthole.